Yeah, and Michael, did we ever do you hear back from Tank if he's joining us today at all, or I assume probably not.
I don't think he responded to my. I tagged him to see, and no, he didn't respond.
Okay, all good.
Um, so that's a bummer. But I always love hearing from him, and it's always good to get those product vision updates from him.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I'll just start off with a few updates, I guess. We are coming pretty close on our movement video. It's been a fun process. I did my filming the other week, and I think some others in here, like Maiko and Felix, have done some filming as well. So it'll be cool to see everyone's kind of perspective on what they're working on and why they are excited about the movement DAO community. Um, and so we should have that, I think, edited later this month.
Amazing.
And Fuego, did you have any updates for us too, or do you want me to just keep rolling?
No updates on my end.
Cool. Well, and other good news, we have had a lot of contributor uh, interests in the last couple weeks since we've sort of been defining some areas that we need help. Um, and so we're also looking to kind of create a model around how we um, make transparent and kind of figure out a model for like the airdrop of move for contributors and how we um, make that allocated to each person and make sure that it's fair, transparent, and distributed. So keep an eye out for that. But we definitely, um, it's not stopping us from rewarding contributors in the meantime. And we continue to make efforts in the updates to all of our messaging and documents. So, we talked about, I think last week, that there's just been a lot of confusion around what the Movement DAO platform is, and some of the messaging on the current website might be a little bit misleading. So, if you missed that, we recorded last town hall session, and you can get caught up. But all that should start to be implemented this month. So we'll have a whole, fresh new kind of, hopefully very clear look and feel and messaging so that people will be able to understand what we do as soon as they get in. And I know Micah has been also working on onboarding as part of that process. I don't know if you want to chat for a few minutes, Micah, on anything. It doesn't have to be about that.
Um, sure. Yeah, we're kind of we've been going back and forth between doing a kind of website native onboarding process where people go through the website versus keeping things Discord native, and then the right way to collect the information we want from folks. So we've run into some technical issues with integrating a Discord bot through the Airtable form. Like when people don't enter their Discord handle correctly, it can cause problems where they don't get their roles that they need immediately. And I initially wanted to, circumvent that risk by just porting their Discord handle over to the form. But there's some technical issues with that as well, and it's just interesting to see how many small hiccups can cause, um, you know, major kind of like reworking needs for the whole thing. But yeah, I am. We're moving further and further toward a really clean way for folks to join the DAO and have a really good idea of like how they can get involved in the different directions that they want to get involved in and contribute to the DAO, contribute to movements, start new movements, and one of the big things to circle back to what Obi Stacker was saying is kind of like communicating that we actually have a platform that we're building that is not live yet. And something that I think is lost in translation for a lot of folks is that the way that it's communicated on the website, the documentation says that there is a platform, and then people look for it and don't necessarily see it because we haven't launched it yet, right? But we haven't communicated that it's not live or when we intend to launch it. So they're like, wait, so what is the platform? What are you guys doing? And they see like our movements in action or our pre-movements like community farms and save journalism and this, and they kind of think that's what we're talking about, even though that's just our effort to sort of seed some projects that can be ready once the platform is live. And they see Peace DAO, somebody was thinking that Peace DAO came first and then Movement DAO is sort of trying to follow up from Peace DAO. So yeah, there's like general confusion about that, and I think that getting access to actually making updates to the main website is going to be really helpful. So we've got some great folks joining that want to help contribute to web development. Overachiever built the DAO Punks website and did a great job with that, and they're available. They said full time, as much as we want to employ them on web development stuff. So I've just been working on coordinating with Tank Bottoms to actually get Overachiever set up with what they need, so that we can all fully understand what it's going to take to actually push those messaging refreshes to the main website move.xyz. And then part of that effort is the public documentation, which is Gitbooks, so we can make all those changes at any point. But yeah, I also have some suggestions for changes in wording on the main page, and so we can start discussing that kind of stuff. Do you guys think that the marketing guild will be the best place to discuss some of the changes that we want to make to the website, some of the language and that kind of thing?
I think where like copy is concerned, that probably should fall into the marketing guild, because that's kind of a marketing domain. But yeah, and I guess also consulting with somebody who could do UI maybe, particularly as we move closer to launch and there's going to be more functionality, I would imagine, in the site, obviously. So that might be in the dev channel if we have somebody doing UI. But things related to copy, I think probably should stick in marketing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we'll get the wording down pat, and then we'll push it over to the dev guild for implementation. And we have a couple of really excellent UI people joining in on the DAO. They weren't able to make it to Town Hall today, but they'll be joining in on marketing call next week, hopefully, and I'll just be setting up calls with them personally. So that's pretty awesome. It seems like they seem pretty talented. So we have a lot of great resources to implement whatever changes that we want.
Sounds awesome. I just want to kind of open it up for a second, like see if anyone has any projects that they're working on relevant to any type of impact, social good that is relevant that they want to share. And I know we've already heard a lot from Mark, and we have a podcast and an article that we just did that's on our Twitter. If you want to go check that out, I learned a ton about carbon offsets, and we were having a little discussion at the start of the meeting here about it, but I think it turned out really well. And if you do have a project like that, we'd love to talk with you on the podcast, just kind of like, or if you have someone who is like solving a huge problem that um, is going to benefit humanity, we definitely want to hear from them and just like, learn about all these different approaches and solutions.
I don't want to hog the soapbox if anyone else has anything to go with, but I've been pretty inspired by the dance community here where I live, and there's been a growing sort of energy in the realms of spoken word poetry, and I've been participating in some really awesome open mics, and just witnessing like how awesome that is for collective mental health, to have the space to like express ourselves in creative ways and bond with community. And along those lines, like over the past years, I've like been putting effort into setting up these like nature retreat camp out gatherings that are kind of free form, decentralized format in national forests. So it's like each person going is like a sovereign camper who has the right to camp in national forests. There's no like officially organized event, but we all just happen to camp out together at the same time. And we use like analog decentralized like coordination tools like Circle to make decisions and come to consensus. And that's been really fun. So, that's some of my history. And then lately I've been like really getting into DAOs and DAO coordination and digital decentralized kind of on a global scale. So it's been really interesting kind of dipping back into the analog decentralized culture and sort of trying to find the cross, where they intersect and how they can help each other. And I'm just like, I'm inspired by this whole sphere of dance parties, open mic poetry sharing, and spending time together in nature. And there's still trying to just kind of experiment with like how Web3 can benefit a movement like that. But just creating some kind of a framework for the propagation of community events where people are sort of incentivized and rewarded for helping to organize and facilitate stuff like that. That just gets people, sharing their hearts with each other and spending time in nature, moving their bodies.
Anyone else got something that they're interested in? I thought that was pretty cool, Micah. I am definitely all about nature. What's up, Philip B?
Hey,
Just asking what drives people about their passions and motivations. And it was your turn. You came just in time. Can you give us a little rundown?
you're asking me?
Of course, I'm asking you.
You're asking me what drives my passions and motivations. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
that's 100% correct, Philip.
Wow, that's a great question. I think lately I've been thinking a lot about like maximally efficient time allocation, because there's so many I don't know, before getting into like the like whole crypto Web3 worlds, it's easy to fall under the impression that like you need to find good things to do, but like you quickly start to realize once you get into these communities that there's just this crazy amount of good things to do, and it's more of a question of like prioritizing. So really, I think I try to think of like maximizing impact, um, and trying not to get too far abstracted from that because it's easy to do so.
Thank you, Philip. That's kind of the million-dollar question in many ways for the Move platform, right? When we also think about, well, what causes are the worthwhile causes that you really pour your heart and soul into, and like most worthwhile things in life, the answer is not clear whatsoever, and there's many options, and yet we're finite and mortal, and we have to choose where we put our emphasis. So even like the stuff Michael was talking about, things like collective mental health, being able to unwind, sharing an in-person experience that has artistic and kind of collective merit, like spoken word, poetry, things like that, is hugely important. And then there's tons of other things that are hugely important. So I'll just jump in terms of update podcast wise. We did put our second episode out, I believe yesterday. That was with Mark of Carbon Collectible NFTs, and it was an awesome episode. Thank you again, Mark, for jumping in on that. We're probably going to have our next episode out, I want to say next week, and we have a guest booked. I can say that that's probably going to be Anna from Peace DAO, who's going to give kind of a complete rundown of the Peace DAO story so far and what they've been able to accomplish. For those of you that don't know, she did travel to Ukraine, actually to the Poland-Ukraine border a few weeks ago. So it's going to be a little bit of deep dive in her experiences with that. So I guess keep a lookout for that. And for more nice articles that are profiling movers and shakers in the Web3 space.
Also, speaking of that, I know Ernest, are you there? Ernest of Guy.
Yeah. How's everybody doing? I actually got a disaster relief kitchen that's trying to set up and, reach out to folks in Ukraine. Um, we have contacts on the ground that we're working with, but our organization, my friend is woefully inadequate when it comes to online technology. So I'm hoping to reach out to folks and find some folks that want to help get this disaster relief kitchen kind of um, caught up to Web3 in some ways. But I've been working with these folks for a couple years, and we usually do like hurricane disaster relief in the U.S. But my friends also done stuff with Syrian refugees, and it's ongoing work in the disaster relief field as well as the Web3 world.
Nice. You should come and invite them into our into the Peace DAO peace talks that we have on Wednesdays at I think 4 o'clock at same time as these, and we basically try to get people who are you know helping the Ukraine situation all together and figure out how we can direct funding to the best causes.
Now, you said that's Wednesdays?
Yeah, it's Wednesdays at 4 Eastern.
Okay, so it's 2 my time, 4 you. Sweet.
Yeah,
I can definitely make that. Yeah, they have Twitter is and so I'm having to yeah, it's yeah, it's funny. My friend's really good at at building things and engineering things, but and his disaster relief organization, like essentially what we do is when people send in money, um, we essentially take photos of those donations and then pair them up with photos of our receipts to do this like weird kind of proof of photo receipt. So it's just like, ensuring people that their funds go directly to what they're supporting instead of, just getting lost in management expenses. Um,
I
so
think
we've
that's a
been doing
pretty
this
cool
for a couple
system.
years, and he just doesn't get the technology end of it. But it's like what Web3 should enable any nonprofit to do is like have a clear accounting and responsibility of their things.
That's pretty
So
cool.
thanks. Yeah.
Do you have that? Is that public somewhere? Because I'm really interested in those kinds of systems for like, um, Web3 to IRL validation models.
Yeah, there's been some stuff on like Giveth. Um, it's, it's interesting. I'll drop a link.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's something within the scope of
Sorry.
Peace DAO.
Yeah, I'll drop a link to the video of his trip to kind of explains a little bit what he's doing in Ukraine.
Nice.
Nice. Also, just wanted to mention that love your idea about trying to get like a podcast cooperative together. Did you know those people at Toucan, or did you just see that somewhere?
So this idea comes from how we do an intentional community that I lived in. We did Monday night dinner cooperatives, and the basic premise was for 16 weeks, 16 different families would volunteer to cook dinner for everybody once every 16 weeks. And essentially, you just showed up, your family could show up to eat the other 15 weeks, and then you just promised to cook for everybody once every 16 weeks. And so I keep running into different organizations, and as soon as they get the idea to podcast, they're like, okay, the algorithms tell us that we have to have a podcast every week, essentially. And then now they're burdened with tons of maintenance. So I was thinking, what if you had like 4 different podcasts that only did a podcast once a month and then helped do, the marketing, for the other 3 podcasts, but then they would actually just agree to kind of maybe be there as guests or as listeners. And so it would, essentially bring a group of people into each other's podcasts instead of always feeling like we got to create the podcast, we got to get people to our Twitter space or our podcast. We can actually work as a network of podcasts.
That's brilliant. I think it's a great idea. Are you working with Toucan directly to kind of align that vision between us and them?
No, I just was listening to I
Yeah.
think one of the YouTube videos or something, and I was
Right.
or a Twitter space. Um, I've heard a
Yeah.
little bit about Toucan, but I don't
Bankless
think I'm
has
in
like
their Discord yet.
Bankless has like the their Bankless podcast network, um, which I think is more oriented as like podcast production as a service, and less of like a podcast cooperative. Um, so
Correct.
yeah, but I think there's some overlap there and some things to learn from that because they do. I mean, they're really helpful in a lot of ways by just kind of like lining up sponsors, get just production methods like all lined out and easy. So that's pretty cool and can be some great value added towards our kind of initiative to create like network value surrounding impact movements in Web3.
Yep. Well, and Bankless is in the same kind of situation as like we have more podcasts than we have people to do podcasts, interestingly enough. So it's like I'm like, oh well, yeah, coordination and cooperation should be able to solve this issue, and then help everybody produce. Like if I'm producing the same thing every week, it just gets watered down, and I get lazy. But if I only had to do one podcast a month, I could probably make it pretty good.
Yeah, I'm also
So
wondering like, how many podcasts people listen to, because I feel like you can only have room mentally for like, I don't know, for me it's only like one or two, but maybe some other people can handle more. But I feel like after like three or four, you probably don't really go looking for more podcasts.
well, and everybody needs guests too. So I find out that like that's another like blocker in the developing your podcast is, now there is lots of guests out there and sometimes it's just hard to coordinate, but if you're working with other podcasts, again, it's like, hey, you're, you're almost swapping in. I think it leads to more engagement if you could have people participate with podcasts. Um, might require a little bit more planning, which is sometimes difficult in Web3 to know what's going to happen 2 months from now. But
Yeah, there might be like opportunity for cross pollination. Like I'm reflecting on some of the podcasts I listen to that are like kind of like, for example, the CoinDesk podcast produces every day, but they have different groups of people producing. So you kind of get like every other day of the one that I actually listen to. I tend to only listen to one of the ones on there anyway. I don't listen to the ones produced by other people because I'm more interested in this one. And I can't that might be a problem for people, or it might be an opportunity, because the other ones that are published through CoinDesk I probably wouldn't have ever selected, but I listened to a few of them just because they're being put out through that same stream. And I wonder what it would look like if somebody subscribed to a podcast where Toucan, you know, puts out one a week, and Movement puts out another one a week, and Peace DAO puts out another one a week, and I don't know, DAO Punks or whatever. And like, would that be interesting to people, or would it seem like their subscription stream is just getting polluted by stuff that they're not interested in? I don't know.
I
Those are
think
some thoughts. But
if I could jump in and I gotta hop off soon. Actually, I have another call, unfortunately. But where I really envisioned this kind of working is because people. I mean, I'm not. I have to admit, I'm not a podcast junkie at all. But I know people who really consume a lot of podcasts. But I think there's something to be said of having some branding associated with it. I don't know that people will grow on like four completely different podcasts that just come sequentially. So the way I imagined it is that you would still have one podcast, but it would be shared by organizations that are kind of value and mission aligned. So people who are into kind of high impact social activism stuff, they're probably gonna listen to what Toucan puts out, and they're probably also gonna listen to what Movement puts out. I imagine there would be a lot of overlap there, and so if Toucan, Movement, a couple other DAOs that are mission aligned all say, you know what, we're going to make this podcast and call it X, and it's the podcast of these 4 or 6 or 8 DAOs, then, you could have like, the same intro music, the same kind of cadence, the same tone, um, but they could then put different guests on and have maybe different co-hosts. Like this is now the Toucan co-host or the Movement co-host, so that there's so that it's not so tenuous in terms of what the final product is going to be. Because we also at that point you can also have some control over the product. Whereas if you're just giving it up to the DAOs, you don't really have control. And so there might be some differences in quality or whatever that you know one DAO can't change in the other DAO. But if it's a little more centralized but still has that leeway, I think that might be a nice way to approach that.
Nice. Yeah, maybe this is a topic we can continue to discuss through Marketing Guild or content production. So I've got some news for folks. Next week we want to host Town Hall as a Twitter space. So as soon as we form that Twitter space, we'll post a link, an invitation in the announcements channel. And so I think we can approach that Twitter space as, normally Town Hall, we give an update for what happened in the past week. And perhaps on that one, we can kind of maybe give a broader scope update on Movement DAO in general. It doesn't have to be anything, too heavy, but we'll just see what happens with that, and whether we can get some engagement from some broader scope of the impact movement on Twitter involved in our town halls. Fuego, do you think you'd be interested in joining in on that and maybe giving some kind of high level overview and on movement vision?
Absolutely. Happy to do that.
Cool. Yeah, and everyone else here, we'd love to hear about your experience being involved in movement this far and visions and plans you have for the future.
Philip, you want to talk, say any few words since you're kind of newish here?
I don't have anything particular to add, but yeah, I appreciate how kind everybody has been so far, and I'm looking forward to getting more involved over time.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Just
Oh no,
figured-
no worries. Yeah. No, I'm trying to listen and learn as much as I can. So yeah, hoping to do more listening, but yeah, nothing in particular to add, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything to add? I guess we can wrap it up. Thank you all.
Bye, guys. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.